And we're back in the garden for this morning. Good morning, Dabney.
Good morning.
Welcome back.
Well, thank you.
And we're getting to that time of year now where things are really starting to change. The temperature's getting cold, so we got to start thinking about some fall considerations.
Right. Well, I'll tell you one nice thing, pardon me, with this wind, maybe we'll get all the leaves out of the trees the next day or so we don't have to keep raking. I spent all last weekend raking, and of course you never know it looking at them today, and we need to keep in mind to get those leaves that are falling out of the trees out of the shrubs, those evergreen shrubs. Real critical, because you leave those laying on top, you don't get the light or the air circulation to your plants. Okay. The other thing we need to keep in mind, because the temperatures are dropping, our indoor plants, we're going to turn the furnace on, and what's going to happen, the plants that we brought indoors from outside, the insect eggs are on, even though we treated them before we brought them in, the eggs were still there. We couldn't control those, so those eggs are going to be hatching, so we got to spray the plants.
Wow, okay, good tip to have there. We have a caller this morning with a question. Good morning. What's your question for Dabney?
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Doing good, thank you. What's your question?
My question is about my pomegranate bush.
Okay.
I've had it for about 6 years, and it took about 3 years before it would produce any fruit. In the first year, I had 24 beautiful pomegranates. Wow. In the past 2 years, I've had 1 and 2. And I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to get it to produce more fruit.
Two things you might do. First, put some superphosphate on next spring. That's a fertilizer with a high middle number. That encourages fruiting. Number 2, make sure that you're not doing a lot of watering. Pomegranates are more of a drought-tolerant plant, so keep trying to, and of course with the rains we had, it hasn't helped you any, admittedly. But make sure you're not adding water to what rains we get during the year, and I think that'll increase your fruit set quite a bit. Don't worry about pruning anything unless you've just gotten too tall. But the fertilizer, the superphosphate, high middle number, and less water.
Okay, another question this morning for you, Dabney, from Kim in Carrollton. Good morning. What's your question?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My question is, I would like to put in a new rose bush, and I don't know the process to do that. When is the best time and how to go about doing it?
Good question. In fact, Jeff was asking before we went on the air, can we plant trees and shrubs this time of year?
Yeah.
Perfect time of year to be planting. The problem is in rose bushes, you're probably not going to find much of a selection. They tend to be more available in the spring, in March and April. Now, if you prefer to buy mail order or Bare Root, you can order that sometime this next month or two, then they'll be shipped in probably about the end of February. Generally in the garden centers, you're going to find plants available from end of March, 1st of April, through Mother's Day, and they're going to be in pots growing. The nice thing about that, you actually see them blooming when you buy them, so you can make a good color choice. But that's the better time to plant. Keep in mind whether you plant roses, shrubs, trees, whatever, always dig a hole 1/3 wider, deeper than your pot, or if you're doing Bare Root, then do a fairly good sized hole, mix in a good compost product, a starter fertilizer. Always prepare the soil well when you plant. You're going to get a far better return no matter which plant you put in the ground.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Dabney, and have a happy Thanksgiving coming up this week. We'll check in with you probably in a few more weeks to talk about poinsettias, too.
And live Christmas trees. Yes. How do we get a fresh one to keep it fresh indoors? We'll be talking about that after Thanksgiving, too.
All right, perfect.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, we'll check in just a little bit.